Hello and many thanks for joining us. You're watching Addis News Hour with the news. I'm Tabitha John. Do stay with us. Scholars say the formation of new government based on the successful outcomes of the 6th general election would have great impetus to withstand foreign aggression. They also highlighted the presence of an elected government in place signals a direct message to anti-Ethiopian elements to refrain from their ill deeds and intentions of challenging the sovereignty of the country. Daniel Kasahun has more.
The last 3 years in Ethiopia has seen lots of successes and challenges. The success of the government has gone to the extent of winning Nobel Peace Prize, mainly due to the peaceful engagement with the Eritrean government.
Whose goodwill, trust and commitment were vital in ending the 2-decade deadlock between our countries.
The major challenge it faced was stabbing at the back from the TPLF terrorist group in which shamelessly exerted against the Ethiopian Defense Force. All in all, the incumbent was experiencing both opportunities and adversities. Sometimes it was sailing its boat in devastating tides, another time more or less in a settled wave. Scholars in the field said the formation of new government based on the successful outcomes of the 6th general election would give great impetus for the emerging cabinet withstanding lots of challenges including foreign aggression.
Following
the formation of newly elected government, the loyalty and sovereignty of Ethiopia will get better strength because there happens to be a government of the people. Foreign aggressors will think twice before dealing with publicly elected government. Their fight will not be with the government but against all the over 110 million people of the country.
የነሱ አመጣጥ ግን ሀገርን ወደ ቀውስ ውስጥ ወደ ማትወጣው አደጋ ውስጥ ለመክተት የመጣ ነው.
Their attempt to indulge Ethiopia into irreversible chaos and disintegration will not be achieved when the elected government and the public act in harmony. The major thing is the coming government has to take its right position to lead the country to its rightful place. When the enemies try to fight the new government, it would be hard for them to penetrate, for the people of the country defends Ethiopia's right.
However, the scholars advise the new government to make a paradigm shift in order to bring about the desired change as promised during the election.
Being elected may not be enough unless the incumbent steers the wheels of the government to the right direction, making all the necessary gear shifts to make great stride. There is high expectation from the public and this has to be addressed well. All good opportunities have to be exploited well in order to win the diplomatic stage. A lot of work is needed to ensure Ethiopia's prosperity.
The scholars also suggested foreign powers to abide by principles of democracy before suggesting other nations to exercise democracy.
Only 4 days are left to form a new government in Ethiopia. In line with this, the country's politicians as well as ordinary citizens expect the new government to address a range of issues, particularly in the socio-economic and political fronts. At this work, the monthly forum being organized by the Office of the Prime Minister tabled issues that have to be addressed by the new government. During the discussion, stakes drawn from academics, the military, security, justice, finance and many others took part in the discussion. Take a look at this.
በመንግስትና በህዝብ መካከል በሚገባ ቃል ኪዳን ለሚመሰረት መንግስት መድረሳችን
It is a big success. We reached a historic moment that we are going to establish a government based on a promise agreed between government and the people. High value should be attributed to this. The success of a government depends on its acceptability by the people, apart from such issues like the strength and efficiency of its institutions. The trend so far is an epitome that our culture of democracy is showing some progress because we are going to form a government that has passed a peaceful election.
Planning and Development Commissioner Fitsum Asafa said the new government shall reassess major macroeconomic issues. It should also work to make Ethiopia Africa's beacon of prosperity through market-led economic policy. The new government shall ensure fastest economic growth and fair and inclusive economic climate in the country, Fitsum underlined.
አዲሱ የሚመሰረተው መንግስት መስራት ያለበት ከኢኮኖሚ አኳያ
The assignments of the new government on the economic front can be summarized into 3 points. First comes ensuring social justice. Second, it should be a priority to ensure fast economic growth. In line with this, the government should cautiously avoid irregularities created while ensuring fast-track economic growth and also creating favorable conditions for causing a stable macroeconomy. Citizens shall largely participate in development process, some in bringing the development through investments and others through using job opportunities created through investments. In addition, citizens should get equitable job opportunity, education and health service, infrastructure development as well as equitable economic gains.
Political scholar Ndala Neguse suggested the new government to avoid ethnic-based political structures in the country. Talking to ETV English, Ndala said the new government has to consider Ethiopia's long-time desire for prosperity. Kasahun Channi has this report.
When one discusses the development of democratic institutions, it is important to keep in mind the government's effort to establish new democratic institutions for the first time in Ethiopia's history. Lack of efficiency in existing institutions or even the absence of strong democratic institutions has negatively affected the performance of the federal system in its struggle to accommodate diversity. Following the Ethiopian constitution, the government is ready to establish a parliamentary democratic state. Ndala said when the government of Ethiopia forms, it ought to be with the aim of the prosperity of the nation, and with establishing a system noting any ethnic lines and networking should be avoided.
Democracy is, multi-party system. You can see now. At least, Prosperity Party, secured majority vote, not total, majority vote. But other political parties also, they're exercising, their rights to have a power. This is an important milestone because without a multi-party system, you cannot, secure diversity. Ethiopians are ready now to form new government. You see, to form new government. So Ethiopians expect a lot. I think the first expectation should be is forming the system. We shouldn't rely on individuals. We shouldn't rely on some unnecessary network. All works, all division of labors should be based on system. This system, again, should be based on independent institutions, responsible, officials, including the House, including the House of Federations, should exercise, their rights, their responsibilities based on the constitutions, based on their promise. Already they have promised a lot. So they have to come to the point. So we don't expect a kind of passive discussion as usual, business as usual before. We don't expect that because there are a lot of problems.
According to the existing Ethiopian constitution, member parliament shall only be governed by the constitution, the will of the people, and their conscience. The scholar further noted that striving for unity is the way to the development of the nation. The political appointee from other party members and independent candidates in the Oromia region and Addis Ababa city administration is a sign of a great job, something that has to be doubled at the federal level, according to Ndala.
Regarding the new governments, we can say, because all regional states are forming governments, since last week. So, concerning our unity, concerning our development, all Ethiopians, all political parties have their own, sake, their own, role. So, the new governments should give attention those roles of, different groups, including political parties. So we have to appreciate Oromia, for example, includes OLF in its, new government. We have to appreciate that. You can see Addis Ababa administrations includes two political parties, Amhara National Movement and Justice, Social Justice Party. Social Justice Party. So we have to appreciate that. So this should be included in the federal government. We have to recognize the role of all Ethiopians, the role of all, unless we work together, unless, we are exercising the democracy together, we cannot bring, the necessary outcome so as to enhance the national interest of Ethiopia, so as to, make our unity strong. Again, even so as to avoid adversaries.
Ethiopia is set to form new federal government on Monday, where the ruling Prosperity Party won the majority seat in the parliament.
Welcome back. A legal expert recommends that the newly elected parliament make security a topmost priority. He also underscored that the new government to be inaugurated come Monday needs to be free from the yoke of confrontation and focus on cooperation. Goshu Melliso has this report.
Ethiopia is grappling with internal problems and under foreign pressure. Amidst various challenges, Ethiopia had conducted peaceful elections in June this year. The ruling Prosperity Party grabbed 410 seats in the federal parliament, winning a landslide victory. The newly elected parliament to be established on October 4, 2021 is expected to address multitudes of challenges facing the Horn of African nation. Commenting on the matter, legal expert Chernet Ordofa said the newly elected parliament must confront the security issue as a topmost priority.
The new government has a lot of issues to focus on. One is, the first is, I think it should address the security issues of this country. It should address that. It should work on, political consensus, okay? Political consensus. It should try to bring about a political consensus. We have to change our political tradition from that of confrontational to cooperation and compromise.
On the other hand, with opposing views looming large and competing versions of nationalism prevailing, Chernet underscored that the government must try and reach consensus with various political actors.
The transition process is not yet over. Okay? The transition to democracy goes after goes on after the election. So the government needs to consolidate. then the government needs to consolidate democracy. Democracy did not yet take root in Ethiopia. So the consolidation process calls for, consensus of the political elites, okay, the business elites, and the intellectuals, and the participation of the public.
He reiterated that while stamping drafts into laws and lawmakers must address public grievances and consider realities on the ground.
To put an end to procedures, laws that are inimical to the democratic process, it should replace them by laws and procedures that are friendly to democracy, okay, to our democratic transition, consolidation. So, institution building is the major challenge of this parliament. We have economic problems, which this parliament is confronted with. We have political problems in this country. It should, change its working conditions. It should change it. It should invite public participation in its lawmaking process.
As part of his recommendation, the legal expert further said civil service institutions must be liberated from party politics.
This parliament, I think, have to check the civil service. The civil service is not functioning in this country. Okay? We have to liberate the civil service from politics. Okay? We have to make it professional. It should be liberated. It should be capable. It should be professional. It should have the integrity to serve the public, and it should check. The parliament should check this.
Regional states and city administrations are forming their new cabinets. The federal government is expected to establish its parliament on October 4, 2021.
The UN has deplorably shown its back to Ethiopia, a country which has relentlessly served in various countries in support of collective security. To the dismay of any sensible person, the Secretary General Antonio Guterres has appealed to negotiate with a terrorist group rather than to make a clarion call for the international community to support and assist the Ethiopian people and government to deal with the terrorists. Shifarao Lago presents the story as follows.
In a press conference delivered in September, Antonio Guterres, the Secretary General of the United Nations, expressed his deep concern that the world is edging toward a new abnormal. Scholars say the statements of the Secretary General should have been more solid had they been clear in identifying the causes that triggered the worries. But the irony is the causes for possible perpetual crisis are emanated partially, if not wholly, from within the UN leadership and the hegemonic policies of the powerful nations. It is therefore disheartening to note that the UN forums, particularly the Security Council, have recently been used repeatedly to meddle in the internal affairs of Ethiopia, UN founding member and staunch supporter of the cardinal principles of the organization. The Secretary General has not advised the concerned bodies to refrain from such acts of violations of the UN Charter, which includes using force.
Political and security landscape in Africa is on a path of adversity. Forcible overthrow of governments, joint military exercise, aggression, renewed appetite for intervention in sovereign countries, subversion and mercenarism, normalized and renewed scramble for natural resource, secret military pacts, geopolitical competitions, and others are becoming pervasive. Unless we swiftly change course, this will be yet another round to destabilize Africa.
It is an open secret that during the last 3 years, the terrorist group has committed heinous crimes of genocide against its own brothers and sisters of the Federal Army, innocent civilians in various places, among other horrible destructions and crimes.
On the night of November 4 last year, in a scheme orchestrated by a criminal group, the Ethiopian National Defense Force was attacked from within. The unsuspecting men and women in uniform were slain. the government of Ethiopia took the necessary measures to avert the grave danger imposed on us. Mr. President, while the government was addressing humanitarian needs, the disruptors applied their cruel design to aggravate human suffering. We were also caught by surprise and, to be honest, unprepared for the twisted propaganda campaign. Little did we know the power of privatized politics and foreign policy that clouds the truth from policy decisions.
While he uttered verbally his support for the initiative of other entities like the African Union, the Secretary General is said to have refrained from advising Security Council members when the Renaissance Dam agenda was tabled about 8 times in the Security Council, even after the agenda was taken to the AU, which were all foiled by the principled stance of China, Russia, India, and Kenya. Yet Ethiopia is determined to continue national agenda in the midst of challenges from many sides.
The Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, a hydroelectric dam project we fully financed, underwent a second-year filling. Hopefully, we inspired others to develop local capability to plan, finance, and complete renewable energy projects. However, our humble attempt to light the house of millions of Ethiopians and create hope for our youth is politicized before global bodies. These people's project also received unending threats. Ironically, we are accused and threatened for drinking from our water.
It is therefore high time that the UN and its agencies be reviewed and restructured, it was indicated. If it were not for the few principal Security Council members of the UN, its existence would have been in jeopardy long time ago.
ጋምቤላ ብሔራዊ ፓርክ ህልውናው ተመስርቷል የሚባለው ወንዞች አንደኛ ጊሎ ወንዝ አለ፣ ሁለተኛ የባሮ ወንዝ አለ፣ ሶስተኛ አልዌሮ ወንዝ አለ። እነዚህ ሶስቱ ወንዞች አመቱን ሙሉ ፓርኩን እያቋረጡ ስለሚያልፉ የማይነጥፍ አረንጓዴ ሆኖ አመቱን ሙሉ እናየዋለን።
በተና ችግሩ ዋና መንገድ ፓርክ ላይ ዛ መንገድ የለም።
ተፈጥሮ ሀብት የምንላቸው በብሔራዊ ፓርክ ውስጥ ከ69 በላይ አጥቢ የዱር እንስሳት ይገኙበታል። ከ372 በላይ የአዕዋፍ ዝርያ ይገኙበታል። ከ92 በላይ የአሳ ዝርያ ይገኙበታል። አልፎም ከ442 በላይ የእጽዋት ዝርያ ይገኙበታል።
The Dire-Dawa City Council has formed a new administration today to lead the city for the next 5 years. the council elected the speakers and appointed the mayor of the city. In addition, the council has also approved the appointment of cabinet members. Oromia Regional State and Addis Ababa City have so far formed their respective governments ahead of the formation of the federal government. The other regional states are also expected to make similar measures in the coming couple of days. Ethiopian ambassador to India, Tizita Mulugeta, said she had a productive conversation with the president of Global India Business Forum. Ambassador Tizita emphasized the need to work together to promote Ethiopia's trade and investment opportunities. According to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, the two sides agreed to organize an industry-specific Indian business delegation to Ethiopia. And finally, Najla Buden Ramadan, a university engineer with World Bank experience, has been lifted from political obscurity